Well, hello there. As predicted, I was a little bit late. um, Hopefully I have the mic on. Yes, I do. So we're going to touch on this over here without Mrs. AD hearing all about it because it's a bit dodgy when Mrs. AD knows what we're talking about when it comes to this topic, just because of the topic that it is and where her thoughts are with Luigi Mangione. And a lot has been unfolding in this case. So I'm just going to just run through some stuff and let's talk about it back and forth in the chat. I'm going to just go through some of the earlier stuff first, and then we're going to look at some of the stuff on Luigi. He seems to have become. I wouldn't have even said he was infamous. That he's famous. Hey Karen, hey Donna. So let's just play this bit from the news just so we can get the beginning for those, because there could be someone that comes in and watches this on replay and is like, what are we talking about? Who's Brian Thompson? What the hell? Couldn't show this on TikTok, by the way. TikTok would have taken all that away. Why is there no sound? Why is there no sound? Technical issues already. Oh, bloody hell. Should we try that again?
And Natalie, was he a hitman?
Again, with a difficult start to this day, murder in Midtown. Chilling surveillance video shows a gunman shoot and kill a CEO outside a busy hotel where the shooter was spotted.
Oh yeah, he does, doesn't he?
The killing. We have to begin there at 4 o'clock. I'm David Ushery.
I'm Natalie Pascarella. Thank you for joining us. Let's get right to News 4's Melissa Colorado. She's live.
That's the first time I've noticed him when I've watched the video, tapping the gun where it jammed.
Live in Midtown with this ongoing manhunt for the gunman, Melissa.
And Natalie, was he a hitman or someone with an axe to grind? Police right now searching for that brazen gunman who waited outside of the Hilton Hotel for the CEO of Unitedhealthcare Group. 15-year-old Brian Thompson from Maple Grove, Minnesota, gunned him down right here in the heart of Midtown earlier today. 50-year-old Brian Thompson captured on surveillance video walking calmly down West 54th Street
it's really eerie.
and 7th Avenue just before 7 a.m. Behind him, his killer in a dark jacket with a gray backpack.
Jesus.
He pulls out a gun that appears to have a suppressor and fires at Thompson 3 times. The gun jams. The killer clears the chamber and fires again.
It does seem that he's proficient in the use of firearms, as he was able to clear the malfunctions pretty quickly.
All of this happening in front of a woman who runs away unharmed. Driver Amar Abdamul saw this all unfold from his car.
It was shocked, because this
Can you imagine being that woman
in front of me? I was shocked, and I feared that she could shoot me too.
Late this afternoon, police released this photo of the masked shooter at a nearby store before the attack. Thompson arrived in New York City on Monday from Minnesota to join the Unitedhealthcare's annual investor conference at the Hilton Hotel. He was set to speak today. That conference was canceled as executives learned their CEO was gunned down. His wife, Paulette, speaking to a reporter from our sister station in Minneapolis over the phone.
Brian was a wonderful person with a big heart and who lived life to the fullest. He will be greatly missed by everybody. Our hearts are broken and we are completely devastated by this news.
Police say Thompson did not travel to New York with a security detail. Detectives say the gunman crossed West 54th Street, walked by an alley near the Ziegfeld Theater, and hopped on an e-bike. He was tracked into Central Park. Police working to track down that e-bike. Detectives are currently sifting through Thompson's social media, searching his hotel room, and speaking to his family to find out if he had any known enemies.
I want to be clear. At this time, every indication is that this was a premeditated, pre-planned, targeted attack.
Yeah, I mean, everyone.
And we're learning that Brian Thompson was a father of two.
Everyone reacts to different things differently, don't they? I react to things differently. It's it's one of those things, isn't it? I would be believed to be guilty because I'd be the calm one talking. She sounded nervous, obviously, but I mean one of the neighbors rumored that they weren't living in the same house, so it's difficult to know if they were you know, together. But then he might have been off and around and about and doing all sorts of different things and hardly at home, and that's why they got that perception.
Two sons, one boy in high school, the other in college. Unitedhealthcare said in a statement that they are deeply saddened and shocked over the death of their CEO. And Crime Stoppers has a $10,000 reward for anyone with information that can help lead to an arrest. That's the latest here in Midtown. I'm Melissa, Colorado, News 4 New York.
Melissa, thank you for the latest. Joining us now, Terry Monahan, former chief of department for the NYPD. Terry, thank you for joining us.
Chief, you go back to the days of the mob hits, but this one felt a little different. One of the things we're going to look at, is this an assassin or is this, an aggrieved party that just is trained in firearms? How do you figure that out?
Just looking at it, someone that knew how to utilize a firearm. It doesn't mean he's a trained assassin. Right. It's someone, if you've grown up with guns, if you've ever been to a range, you're going to know to get into that 3-point stance. You're going to know how to clear a gun. So I'm not going to go out on a limb and say this is an assassin. Anyone who knew how to utilize a gun, who grew up with guns, would know to do exactly what he did.
We have to talk about the search. We know he took off, according to police, into Central Park. Take us through the specifics of what police are doing right now to try to track him down. Pretty bold, being 7 in the morning.
They're looking all over the park, looking for every camera, exiting the park, see if they can get him on video, track him from the park to wherever he's going, search the park for anything he may have dropped, anything that could have been forensical evidence that they're looking for. That is what's going on. Plus, they're also looking at every angle of his life to see what could motivate something like this.
Former Chief of Department Terry Monahan, we really appreciate you joining us. This is the big story today. We do appreciate your expertise. Stick with us for News 4 for more on the killing of Unitedhealthcare CEO Brian Thompson. We're going to bring you the latest here on TV.
So as you saw there, grief comes in different waves, doesn't it? But as we saw there, that basically gives us the information of the things that happened. And we were following this when this was sort of unfolding at the time. And I still feel very much, I don't know about you guys, but I still feel very much that this was planned, but he almost, I felt like he wanted to get caught, but then having seen obviously what's sort of unfolded recently, he didn't. Like, he's kicking off when he's going into when he's being taken, he kicks off going in the courtroom. And if you were wanting to be not get caught, you'd have been a bit more careful, but I'm pretty sure over time we're going to find out really what happened. So essentially, on Sunday, November the 24th, our suspect, who we at this point only knew as the suspect, arrives in New York, and he uses the bus services, the old Greyhound bus, the one that Gypsy Rose likes. He then goes to a hostel, and he logs into the hostel. He goes into the hostel, and he is flirting with the woman behind the desk. It's the thing to do, isn't it? Let me just get a better picture up. So he pulls his face mask down, and he why won't it do what I want it to do? Ugh, man. It won't do what I want it to do. Just want it to open on this page. It's not going to happen though, is it? What the hell? What am I doing? I don't know. Okay, let's just, what does that look like? Yeah, so we've got all the pictures. Let's have all the pictures, right? Because it's like, I don't know what's going on with my thing. I don't know how this whole thing works out, but there's a series of pictures on there. You can see them. So you've got like him there. That's when he was flirting. Let's flirt with the woman. Let's pull our mask down. And lo and behold, we get a mugshot from him. So a picture that they can share around. So Friday, the 29th of November, he checks out of said hostel, and according to information, it's not like a typical check-in area. If you don't show up at a certain time, they just check you out. And that's where they believe that he was, and that was one of the focuses. And they obviously went and spoke to the staff. Then he goes back and checks into the hostel. And then on the 4th of December at 5:30, what I want to know though is how he knew when to be there, like for the exact time. And I know people have said that this guy wanted this. Do you know what I mean? Like this, he paid him to unalive him, but I'm not buying that. Surveillance footage shows Luigi leaving the hostel. We can call him that now because we know who he is. And he's wandering around New York Midtown. And then he heads up to get that Starbucks where he gets water. Now, he had the water. Did he deliberately leave the water bottle there with some DNA on there, or did he accidentally drop it? But either way, the bottle was there, wasn't it? And again, they were able to get a smudged print off of it. Then, obviously, we know that he buys that, and he's doing what he's doing. And then there's CCTV footage of him sort of wandering around with that backpack on. Let me bring those over to us so we can see them. Let's change the screen a minute. Hi, Alison. We do have some great company, don't we, in here? It's lovely. I love all the nice company. We'll have all the nice company. We'll have all the... Let me just swap screens. Nope. That's not doing the job. That's the button I want. Come and learn how to use StreamYard with me. So there's a series of CCTV. This one is showing him walking past some trash calmly. Not sure what he was doing there. And then he's captured on another one. He's on the phone. Imagine being that dude, knowing that you just walked past him. Face is still covered. And then at 6:44, the victim goes to the Hilton, leaving his other hotel. I don't understand why he wasn't staying in the Hilton. That's another question that I've got. And we know Luigi was laying in wait, and I don't know how he knew what time. And then we have this. That woman must have been absolutely like petrified seeing him getting gunned down. I'd have been, whoa. And she's obviously a very key witness in this. And then that's him afterwards when he's leaving. I'm assuming that's Brian on the floor there. You can see here. You can't see it very well, but I'm assuming that's him. And then he does his runner. And then he's got his electric bike. And there's a couple of pictures at the time released, and it's questions like, is that the same bike? Because the wheel frames look slightly different on one of the bikes. And obviously then there is this massive, great big manhunt, and he's headed off to 85th Street and Columbus Avenue. Then he's not on his bike anymore from around 7. He then gets into a cab. So he's using lots of different means of transport. He heads to the George Washington Bridge at around 7:30. He makes it quite a way. And then to the bus station off 178th. And he must have scaled this out properly to know how to get from A to B. And then we have the manhunt, and we were obviously following that. And then somebody called McDonald's, didn't they? Somebody called McDonald's. He might have done, but I believe that he got there a bit earlier than ahead of schedule. So it's like, how did he know to get there earlier ahead of schedule? Like, I mean, I'm sure this will all come out at some point, but it's just one of those questions that we've all got. Like, how did he know to be there at the exact time? I mean, it could have just been like he thought, right, well, I'll get there and I'll hover around an hour early, just in case he gets here a little bit early. Because I mean, the guy could have been late, couldn't he? He could have been a little bit earlier. So how did he know to be there? But he was there. And so at 9:14 on the 9th of December, we know that he'd headed off to Pennsylvania after he'd done the unaliving, but he is in the McDonald's eating a hash brown, face mask on, and I'll be honest, if I'd have seen him sat there with what he's wearing there, I wouldn't have thought for a second that that was the suspect, because I don't think that actually looks anything like the picture that we've been seeing. And because he had the face mask on, that probably is what got the suspicions there. But like, just to look at him, I don't think I'd have sat there and gone, God, that looks like that dude, unless I was there and could see him. But just in this moment here with this picture as he is, I don't think that looks like him at all. Not even now we've seen him properly with what he looks like. So the police are obviously dispatched to the McDonald's. An employee is tipped off. Now, we got mixed messages about this. So some during the press conference, apparently the police at the press conference confirmed that it was a person who had thought he looked a bit odd, suspicious, and thought it might possibly be him. They then told the McDonald's staff. That McDonald's person then calls the police to tip them off for the person that they think that could be that suspect. And at 9:58, they've got him. And we heard in the press conference, I don't know if you haven't seen the press conference, definitely go and watch it. But they talk about the presser, hey, Nick. And in that, they're sort of talking about sorry, I just lost my train of thought there. They're talking about what happened, and it's quite detailed. Now, there's different rumours going around about the member of staff, and there's different rumours about the person who recognised them. Now, apparently, the member of staff got the sack. I can't confirm or deny that. I don't know. It's just things that I've heard. And one of the reasons that I think it was Ash Too Trippy was saying on one of her videos, I'm sure it was her, saying that because they'd worked, oh no, it wasn't, it was Flawless Nina, saying that one of the reasons why this could be, if they did get the sack, is because when you need to call the police, you're supposed to go through the manager, not do it directly yourself, and that can get you the sack. Now, I know with my friend, like, she's in a situation where they have to go through their manager before they can call the police because they can get into trouble. So that seems really stupid to me. Like, hi manager, I need to call the police, I've got a gunman. Like, no. It's Phoebe. You've been in work, have you? Yeah, I've had a chilled day as well, Donna, not gonna lie. Just chilling and just doing the things that we do over here. So when the guy who arrested him he's sort of 6 months in on his training, so for him he's feeling right proud at the moment. But there is a divide in this, and I don't know where you guys sit with this, but there is a divide, right? There's a clear divide in our house, as you know. Right, we've got me who sits on the fence and like, right, it's a crime, it's murder. He's someone's husband, father, grandson, nephew, son, you know. But then you get thrown back at you, yeah, but all the people that they denied the claims for, they're someone's blah 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 blah. And I get it. And I can get the anger, but obviously we can't condone criminal murder. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, he was in his job doing his job, and he does have someone that he would have to answer to. He has to answer to someone at the end of the day. It's not his business. And perhaps the person whose business it is that wants the savings met and everything else, perhaps they should have been the target. But from there, I've been led to believe that all the CEOs of these different companies have taken stuff off their website. Now this gets interesting because then we learn about our little friend, don't we? We learn about Luigi. Let's let me tell you a little bit about who is Luigi. There's merch and everything, by the way, on Luigi. Right, what have we got on the screen? Yeah, so we've got, let me just get you a, I don't want that one, I don't want that one. I'll just have that playing in there while we're talking. Yeah, okay. So Luigi Mangione, who is he? Why did he do it? Right, we still don't know the motive, but we're getting an idea. I don't know why that's... We're getting an idea of who he is. And it's ironic. It is ironic who Luigi Mangione is. Now, he comes from what seems... He comes from a wealthy background. He's very young. He's fighting his extradition currently as well. He was a prep school valedictorian and an Ivy League graduate, and he comes from a very prominent family. And he also has someone that is in politics in his family, which is ironic considering that the person that he went for himself is obviously well off himself. And sorry, I'm just trying to multitask what I'm looking for and trying to talk at the same time. So with him coming from that kind of background, you've kind of then got to wonder what the hell, because we know with him that he also, I mean, he done some nice things. We know he did some volunteer work. We know he was working, his family owned, I can't remember that off the top of my head, the healthcare. It's like a healthcare, but it's like an old people's healthcare home, which he volunteered as when he was a teenager. But that wasn't because he was just volunteering. He wasn't doing that out of the love of everything. You know, he did it because it was part of his school, like what we call career. What do they call that? Work experience. That was why he was doing it, and he just obviously was in a prime position to obviously talk about it and do it. Which, if you've got family that owns a business where you can do your work experience, then I would say that would be a good thing if you've got that opportunity there. And he did have that opportunity there. Now, he has got an attorney, and his attorney's name is Tom Dickey. Thomas Dickey. I want to call him Tom, Dick, and Harry. And obviously, Mangione is pleading not guilty against the charges. Obviously, he's going to plead not guilty, isn't he? So, 2016, he was raised near Baltimore. His grandfather, Nicholas Mangione Sr., makes a name for his family developing real estate, including the 1,000-acre golf club. And if you guys remember, when he was arrested, the press and everyone was turning up to that home on the golf course. And it was a golf club and resort, and it had been sold on, and he wasn't actually there. Their family wasn't there. And another 2 hotels were owned, and these 7 nursing homes, and he had 2 radio stations. So they come from money. And then obviously we're hearing things that he had a bad back. Is that his reasoning for why he's done what he's done? But then if he's coming from wealth, then why are we needing to make claims for them to be denied? He has a relative called Nino Mangione, who is his cousin, and he is in the politics Maryland House of Delegates. He graduated from Gilman School. It's an all-boys school, and the school fees are very expensive because it was a private school. Back in 2018, he posted about his health issues, including restless sleep. That's like the rest of us, though, but we don't all go out and do the thing. He posted in a group about irritable bowel. He referenced battles with Lyme disease, brain fog. I mean, these are conditions that a lot of people have, and for a lot of them, there's not much that they can do for them. I don't know so much about Lyme, but some of it's hit and miss. But is this an excuse for what he did? Might not be any part of the reason why he did what he did, and it's only alleged that he did it. Obviously he's innocent till he's proven guilty, but if they're looking at him as the suspect and they're looking at all these things, they're looking for his motive. But they do have his fingerprint, don't they, from the weapon? I did see that the other day. So the DNA and the fingerprints aren't going to lie. And if he's got that on his pew, then he's kind of been banged to rights. But then it's to find a jury that's going to convict this man. Because I don't know if they can get a jury that will convict him. I don't even think the grand jury is going to convict him, because when I said there's some on one defense and some on the other, they are mostly on the other. A lot of people aren't sympathetic for Brian Thompson's death, which is sad, because, when are we celebrating murder? Like criminal murder like that, didn't even give the guy a chance to fight him back, took him from behind. He spent a summer at Stanford University working on a pre-collegiate program, and he used to have a LinkedIn page. All his socials have been removed now. 2020 he graduates from the Ivy League, from the University of Pennsylvania. He did engineering and applied sciences. Now, interestingly, on his YouTube there was that video that was dropped, and it's hard to know whether or not, there's no way that he could have posted it because he was in prison, and there's no way he could have timed it either, because it was within 2 hours of him having been arrested. But that's all been removed now. His Instagram that went up to 50,000 followers, they've removed that, and he's not going to need Instagram, let's face it. He used to have his frat brothers. He used to, he traveled, and he lived in Hawaii. And then he started working as a data engineer at True Car. Now, to me, I think things like True Car, you're working for a garage. Often people buying cars from these garages are ripped off. They're ripped off because they end up paying stupid money and interest and everything else, and then they can't afford their car because the car they buy breaks. And to me, that's just as bad, and no one cares about those people. in 2002, he's back in Hawaii and he's talking of back surgery. And he spent the first 6 months in Honolulu, and he went and got a place at a cooperative living space called Surf Break, and he had one of the friend who I think interviewed him does an interview, and I'm now going to play that for you. Oh yeah, like definitely a bit of non-alcoholic fizz. I don't drink that much, but I do have a little bit of the old alcohol, like at Christmas. I want to. Where did he go?
Luigi Mangione is sitting in a Pennsylvania jail cell this morning, but before his arrest in Altoona Monday, police say the suspect's most recent address was in Hawaii. That's where RJ Martin says he met Mangione in 2022 when the engineer and UPenn grad interviewed for a spot at his co-living community. Martin says Mangione spearheaded a book club and wanted to surf, but ran into roadblocks because of intense back pain. He says at points, the Maryland native had a hard time sitting up straight and struggled to have intimate relationships.
What did you know about the condition of his back?
I knew it was something that constantly weighed on him. It was something that impeded him from doing many things.
An archived version of Mangione's now deleted Reddit account showing the suspect wrote that he had sciatica and low back pain. Also posting about brain fog. In 2018, writing, "It is absolutely brutal to have such a life-halting issue that wears down the critical, logical thinking mind," adding that others don't understand his symptoms. Martin says he last checked in on his friend about 9 months ago and found out he'd undergone back surgery, with the 26-year-old sending him an X-ray.
It just broke my heart to know he had these 3-inch screws in his spine.
Those who knew Mangione reacting.
I just remember him as always being a kind, well-liked person. I just can't imagine what drove him to this.
Many who knew him expressing surprise, not only at the charges, but how it could take 5+ days for his capture with such an extensive network of friends nationwide and a family with a significant public profile. And yet, it took a complete stranger to ID him at a McDonald's.
Is this a name you saw anywhere prior to this arrest yesterday?
It is not. And we have been working this hard for 5 days and gotten hundreds of tips to our tip lines, but this was not a name that was called into us.
Now, many in Mangione's life left with lots of questions, but few answers.
He was such a bright person. He had everything going for him. He was the kind of person that you would know was going to do great things.
So in all of their conversations, Martin said he never heard Mangione complain about the health insurance industry and was not aware of any medications he may have been taking for that pain. Mangione's decision to have the back surgery, he says, appeared to be years in the making.
All right, Sam Brock for us. Sam, thank you.
Hey, thanks for
watching. And then I think this one shows the customer. I mean, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have done it, guys. I wouldn't have put myself out there for having called in this guy because he's got a lot of fans out there.
Luigi Mangione, suspect in the shooting death of the Unitedhealthcare CEO, sat down to eat at an Altoona, Pennsylvania McDonald's. Other customers thought he looked familiar.
A guy came in the door, and I didn't really look at him. I thought everyone was kidding around. Well, the one guy said, "That looks like the shooter from New York."
This man, who then left the restaurant to attend church, was flabbergasted to come back and find out Mangione, who police say is responsible for killing Brian Thompson, had been there.
I kept thinking about it all day yesterday. How can that be? I mean, here we are, this little town.
Mangione was taken into custody and is awaiting extradition to New York City, where he faces a second-degree murder charge.
Completely abduction and insult to the intelligence of the American people.
This is Inside Edition Digital.
So there you see it. He's kicking off there, and he didn't really enjoy being arrested and taken into that courthouse, and now he's fighting his extradition. But I mean, at the end of the day, right or wrong, whatever we think, he's murdered someone, like, in cold blood, like, from behind. And I know that there's a lot of fangirls, and I get that Unitedhealthcare in itself is always letting down people, but it's any kind of health service lets people down in its own way. Even though we have the NHS, it lets us down in its own ways. All the cutbacks that we have that have been made by managers and the CEOs that are running the hospital for whoever above them, and they make these decisions about who can have what treatment, what cancer treatments they're going to provide. It's a real postcode lottery. But we don't go and shoot them, do we? Oh, hang on. That is a good question. I just saw that. Why was it second degree? Hang on. Why are they? Because I wondered that. Luigi Mangione with second degree. So, acceptable. Let's go through this together. We stand together. We are one. Okay. So, why the most serious charge in Luigi Mangione's case is only second degree? The most serious charge against the man accused of killing the Unitedhealthcare CEO in broad daylight, early hours of the morning darkness, in Manhattan sidewalk, is murder in the second degree. Given the image of the homicide captured on the surveillance, a dark-hooded figure with a grey backpack fatally shoots the executive in the back from several feet away. And the case may seem like an obvious candidate for an even more serious charge, but under the New York first-degree murder charge only applies to a narrow list of aggravating circumstances, including when the victim is a judge, a police officer, or first responder, or when the killing involves a murder for hire or intent to commit terrorism, or legal experts. That's weird. Whilst not like that. While state prosecutors have not tipped their hand on precisely what evidence they're leaning on as they seek an indictment against Luigi, it is possible details emerge that could allow them to upgrade the second degree murder charge. I bet they bloody do, because he was a CEO of this big bloody company. A charge of first degree murder would raise the case's already high profile, while reducing the possibility defence lawyers could argue down the second degree charge to an even less one with a much lighter maximum sentence. Stiffer penalties could also be in play if the federal prosecutors opt to charge Mangione in the case. Legal experts said possibly over the interstate travel law enforcement officials have described as part of the alleged plot to unalive Brian Thompson. Terrorism could be the key to an upgraded charge. So if it appears, for instance, that the suspect had planned the killing for a while, evidence might point to terrorism, and that could merit a bump up to first degree murder. Terrorism is defined basically as creating and intimidating the civilian population or influencing a government unit to act in a certain way. You can easily imagine a set of facts where Mangione was attempting to do the same or did the same, and I'm sure there's a host of insurance company executives that are afraid of copycats. Mangione appeared to be driven by anger against the health insurance industry and against the corporate greed as a whole, according to the NYPD. He appeared to view the targeted killing of the company's highest-ranking representative as a symbolic takedown and directed challenge to its alleged corruption and power games. Very confusing and complicated. Asserting in his note that he is first to face it with such brutal honesty. The fact that he inscribed on those bullets as well, I forgot about that. You know, that's says a lot to me when you inscribe the, you know, deny, defend, depose on the bullet casings. Like, that's mad. So indeed, the killing of Brian Thompson, who is a husband and a dad of 2, has led many Americans' fury towards the healthcare industry and has struck a fear in the C-suites across the country. And the NYPD Intel report warning online rhetoric could signal an elevated threat facing executives in the near future. Mangione, obviously, we know, was arrested, and he had a 3D printed gun, and that scares the living hell out of me. Like, with these 3D printed guns, like, what in the world? Like, oh, we'll just print off a weapon. That's the sort of thing that could end up happening here, couldn't it? You think it'll be upgraded? The weapon from Mangione upon arrest matches the 3 shell casings found at the crime scene with deny, defend, depose. And we know in that industry they use similar words in their practice, basically deny insurance claims, defend your denial. And we've got the fingerprints that match as well. So he's kind of pinned himself in a hole because he had a printed gun, so it's a bit more unique than the average one on the street. And the bullets match the bullets from that weapon. It's not looking good for Luigi. I mean, you know, innocent till proven guilty and everything. We have to do that. But it's not looking good for him. But I did see something on him as well, so this might also be a problem. Give me a sec. Give me a sec. I don't want a long B one. Where did I see it? Where did I see it? Where did I see it? Where? Let me pop this on for us. Is that the one? No, that's not the one. This was a day. Reminds me, I've said this before, and it reminds me of Grey's Anatomy, and then that printed organs and that. Where is it? Where is it?
That gun to the 3 shell casings that we found in Midtown at the scene of the homicide.
Details are emerging surrounding the accused Unitedhealthcare CEO killer Luigi Mangione, who remains in police custody after allegedly gunning down Brian Thompson last week in Midtown Manhattan. The 26-year-old Ivy League graduate who was arrested after a multi-day manhunt is now at the center of a complex investigation that reveals a troubling mindset and maybe a calculated plan. We're going to be breaking down the top latest details about Luigi Mangione. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. The circumstances surrounding the killing of Unitedhealthcare CEO Brian Thompson continue to captivate the nation. Every day we are learning more about Luigi Mangione, the 26-year-old accused killer who is behind bars right now in a Pennsylvania jail awaiting extradition to New York to face additional charges, including second-degree murder. Now, the shocking events surrounding this case have just raised questions. They've raised questions about mental health, how societal grievances may lead to violence, how this killing took place. And as investigators continue to piece together the timeline and the motivations behind this alleged killer's actions, we are going to break down the top key details that we know so far about Luigi Mangione. And just for a refresher to get us caught up to speed, here's some quick background. So last week, Unitedhealthcare CEO Brian Thompson was gunned down outside of the Hilton Hotel in midtown Manhattan while he was on his way to an investors meeting. Surveillance images captured the killer wearing a hood and mask, ambushing Thompson before shooting him from behind, ultimately killing him. Now, the killer then hopped on a bicycle towards Central Park, where he then hailed a taxi and later got on a bus headed out of Manhattan. And by the way, one of the more bizarre aspects of this, as reported by CNN,
and that was one of his that was one of his newer images that was captured in that taxi cab that was shared by Crime Stoppers. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but apparently the woman who called it in isn't getting the money anyway because she didn't call through Crime Stoppers. She called 999. I don't think that should matter, if I'm honest.
And seen on surveillance footage, it appears that the shooter was on the phone, possibly speaking to someone at 6:30 a.m., so about 15 minutes before the shooting. Who was the person that he was speaking to, and why was he speaking to that person? And by the way, I will also tell you, still one of the unanswered questions is how the shooter, the killer, potentially Luigi Mangione, knew that Brian Thompson was going to be walking down that street at that precise moment. Something to think about. Now, after a manhunt that lasted several days, Luigi Mangione was spotted in a McDonald's in Altoona, Pennsylvania, after a person recognized him from the surveillance images that were released by police. And he was arrested on gun charges in Pennsylvania because, after all, he was reportedly found with a ghost gun and a silencer and a fake ID. Now, Mangione made his first court appearance earlier this week, and that is when we also know he was hit with more charges, this time out of Manhattan, including, as I mentioned, that second-degree murder charge. But it turns out he is apparently fighting his extradition back to New York, where he will face those charges. And this is where we are right now. So we want to jump into the latest details in this case, and we want to start with the forensic evidence. This is huge because we now have official confirmation that police were able to link significant forensic evidence to Luigi Mangione, because NYPD Commissioner...
And that's not looking good for him in a court of law. Just saying.
Jessica Tisch announced that fingerprints found on a water bottle and this protein candy bar near where the crime scene was
exactly Karen,
those taken from Mangione when he was booked into jail in Pennsylvania. Additionally, the gun found in Mangione's possession during his arrest, it has been matched to shell casings recovered from the shooting scene. Again, this is according to Tisch. And Tisch actually gave us a brief update on this at an unrelated news conference yesterday on Staten Island.
We got the gun in question back from Pennsylvania. It's now at the NYPD crime lab. We were able to match that gun to the 3 shell casings that we found in Midtown at the scene of the homicide. We were also able at our crime lab to match the person of interest's fingerprints with fingerprints that we found on both the water bottle and the kind bar near the scene of the homicide in Midtown.
By the way, as you can see from a story like this, the world is just so scary. It really is. And I'm sure you ask yourself sometimes, how can I protect myself? Or how about this? How about protecting your home? Of all places, right? Well, I will tell you what, I didn't even know this, but apparently home title fraud, rampant right now. Yeah, I met with the people over at Home Title Lock. This is our amazing partner and sponsor. They freak me out. So this is an example of a fraudulent quitclaim deed. It got filled out with my information, a forged signature, a fake notary seal. Not only could my property just get transferred behind my back, but the scammers, they go after the equity. They take out loans using your home as collateral. They do all this, they disappear, they leave you with a legal and financial nightmare. But that is where Home Title Lock comes in to give you peace of mind, especially with their triple lock protection. That gets you 24/7 monitoring, alerts of any changes, and restoration services
What in
at
the
no out-of-pocket
world?
cost to you. So to protect your home, go to HometitleLock.com/sidebar.
I was about
Use
to
our
say
promo
that,
code
and I thought that's
sidebar.
quite
You get a
important, isn't
30-day
it?
free trial of their triple lock protection and a free title history report to make sure you aren't already a victim. Now, remember, when Mangione allegedly took off from the scene, he dropped a number of items that police have confiscated. The water bottle, the energy bar wrapper, shell casings, a backpack that was found in Central Park. And when police initially confiscated these dropped items, their first round of testing, based on reporting, didn't yield any results. So this was prior to Mangione's arrest, when they didn't have his fingerprints to reference. And you match that up to the surveillance photos, right? The surveillance photos of the suspect at this hostel, unmasked. You match it up to the surveillance photos of this suspect in the Starbucks right before the shooting, on the street, in the taxi cab. It's all adding up to build the case. Talking about the weapon that was found on Mangione has been described as a 3D printed ghost gun that was equipped with a suppressor and loaded with live ammunition. Prior to this latest forensic discovery, we knew that the casings that were recovered had the words deny, depose, and delay written on them, which raised speculation about the suspect's motive being linked to some kind of resentment with the healthcare industry because of their resemblance to a book that criticized insurance companies. But now we seemingly have the positive identification that those casings matched Mangione's specific weapon, or at least that is what the allegations are. As for Mangione's capture inside of that Altoona McDonald's, we learned recently a bit more information. So a man who was allegedly inside the McDonald's that day, who's only identifying himself as Larry, told multiple outlets that an employee called police after taking Mangione's order, noting that she had spotted this likeness to the surveillance photos based on his eyes and his eyebrows. And this guy, Larry, also said that his friend had made a comment to him along the lines of, "That looks like the shooter from New York." And apparently he told Fox News that the employee heard this friend make this comment inside of the restaurant too. And ultimately, we know for certain that it was the McDonald's employee who called police. Now, I want to go to the arraignment and the extradition hearings in this case out of Pennsylvania, because this was super interesting. So,
To be honest, he's probably more pissed off that he's lost his hash brown. He was eating his breakfast.
Up until his first court appearance, Mangione stayed relatively silent. At the time of his arrest, police said he appeared to be visibly shaking when asked if he had been to New York. And one officer noted that the arrest was peaceful. But when Mangione was brought in for his extradition hearing, he appeared to have some kind of outburst.
Oh my God! I'm completely out of touch, and the insult to the intelligence of the American people and the lived experience.
Now, it's not clear what exactly or specifically he was reacting to, but prior to this, at his arraignment hearing, he contested 3 pieces of evidence presented by prosecutors in open court: his backpack, the wad of cash that was found inside it, and the blue medical mask that he was apparently wearing when he was arrested. As for the bag and the money, prosecutors argued that Mangione was carrying around approximately $10,000 in cash inside of a bag known as a Faraday bag, which apparently blocks cell phone signals. This was all brought forth to suggest criminal sophistication on his part. According to CNN, this is what Mangione said in court in response.
And the person whose company makes those bags came out and said to the police that that was their design and their bag. So he's probably got a warrant on his head by the public as well now.
I'd like to correct 2 things. I don't know where any of that money came from. I'm not sure if it was planted. And also, that bag was waterproof. So I don't know about criminal sophistication. Additionally, the New York Times reported that when the topic of his mask came up, he tried to say that he had purchased the mask, but his lawyer apparently shushed him. Also, going to that extradition hearing, which happened later on, Mangione was denied bail, and it appears that he is going to fight extradition back to New York. Remember, he's facing that second-degree murder charge and additionally gun possession and forgery charges, all out in New York. His lawyer, Thomas Dickey, explained to the press following the extradition why he is contesting it.
I haven't seen any evidence that says that he's the shooter, so I've seen zero evidence at this point.
To be clear about something, though, at the time, Dickey claimed he hadn't seen any evidence that Mangione was the shooter, but we weren't aware of the positive identification or the alleged positive identification that was made of Mangione from both the fingerprints and the shell casings. But essentially, the main reason behind fighting this, according to his attorney, is to get more time to look at the evidence that's coming out of New York. As of yesterday morning, Dickey stood by his statement that he had not seen evidence linking his client to the crime. Again, this is before the positive identifications that I made, but this is what he told the Good Morning America, that he was in the process of reviewing everything. And according to the New York Times, Mangione's decision to fight the extradition could potentially grant him an evidentiary hearing, where apparently the Manhattan DA's office would have to present a witness to support the request for extradition. And this is a process that incorporates both the governor of New York and the Manhattan district attorney, to be clear about that. But now I want to get into the why behind this crime, because investigators are looking into this, and there might be a belief that Mangione's motive could be rooted in personal pain and the health struggles that he was facing. And more importantly, this deep-seated animosity towards the healthcare industry. This may have all started, though, with a debilitating back injury that Mangione had been suffering. So it's been reported by NBC that Mangione was suffering from back pain since he was a child, but his condition was apparently aggravated by surfing. This is according to Yahoo News. And I should also say, this is also according to a now deleted Reddit account with the handle Mr. Cactus. This was reviewed by NBC News, and it's believed that could be Mangione's account. And these archive posts that were reviewed appear to be consistent with key events in Mangione's life, including his frustrations with his condition and the healthcare system. And NBC actually showed some of the posts to friends who knew Mangione, and they recognized some of the events mentioned and the life events discussed. So it gives it a little bit more credence that this account could in fact belong to Mangione. Now, one thing that sticks out about this account is that it was particularly active in discussions related to a specific spinal condition. You know, in one post from April, the user shared that his condition worsened to the point where it was, quote, felt every day. In October, there was another post that shared advice for other sufferers. Constant pain means something is wrong. Mangione's back issues seem to intensify after a surfing incident in 2022, where he apparently slipped and aggravated this condition. This was posted about on Reddit, where the user said that his right leg shut down for a week and caused issues with his hip, including muscle twitching and numbness. We actually spoke with a former roommate of Mangione, RJ Martin, who told us what Mangione was experiencing when he was living with him.
My understanding is it was either an injury or some sort of pre-existing condition that he'd had before he moved to Hawaii, and that his spine had a misalignment, like forward and back. And I think he'd showed me the x-rays of that too. So his nervous cord was being pressed, and I believe his discs. It was one of those interesting injuries where, you know, one day he could perhaps be athletic and do something, and then the next day just immobile and stuck in bed.
Going to 2023, this Reddit user, believed to be Mangione, mentioned undergoing spinal fusion surgery to address this worsening condition.
Oh, it sounds horrid.
Connecting vertebrae with screws and rods to alleviate that pressure. That post read, "Yeah, I had L5-S1 spinal fusion 6 months ago after 1.5 years of failed conservative treatment. Within 7 days of the fusion, I was on 0 pain meds. That's probably faster than most folks, but my point is that your body isn't supposed to be in pain and needs meds. Even after getting my back sliced open and my spine drilled into, I wasn't in much pain." And Martin had also told us about this procedure of Mangione's.
I checked in with him maybe about a year ago, less than a year ago, asking how the surgery went. And we had some text communications. He sent me some images of his x-rays post-surgery. It's those kinds of images, I think some of them are already out there, that just make you cringe. You know, you look at 3-4 inch screws into somebody's spine. And
so why is the back pain so important? Well, experts in pain science have pointed out that chronic back pain can negatively affect not only just physical health, but also mental health, their well-being. This board-certified neurosurgeon, TikToker, who goes by Lady Spine Doc, offered her expert opinion on how a person in chronic pain may have been driven to take someone else's life.
This was supposedly his banner photo on X.
I have to say, for a lot of us, we always have chronic pain. If we've got fibro, Lyme's, whatever. And yes, it does affect your mental health. Of course it does. But I still haven't unalived anyone.
X, which leads us to think that this potentially could represent his own spine x-ray. I have also read that he was a wrestler, and wrestlers are subject to hyperextension injuries.
That is not the best picture. That looks like a weird dongalong. I'm sorry, but she should not have that picture in the background. It looks like a weird sex toy penis thing. Sorry.
Which can lead to pars defects. That's where you have instability in your spine that would necessitate a spinal fusion, and this is most common in young men at L5 and S1. This x-ray does represent an L5-S1 spondylolisthesis, which could potentially correlate to an injury that he has sustained and potentially a surgery that he has had that could have led him to have chronic pain. You can imagine someone that lives in chronic daily pain that they suffer, and if they are denied the anger that goes into their suffering. I'm not saying that this justifies what he did, but I am saying it provides a good insight into what may be the driving motive for this crime.
Now, of course, this is just an opinion here, right? Yes, this is a medical expert.
And now he's locked up. You can get it fixed.
As to what Mangione might have been experiencing and the resulting ill will he might have felt
to the state
towards health insurance. But what this does do is lead us into another part of this investigation, the why. And that leads me into a critical piece of evidence in this case. This notebook that was discovered during Mangione's arrest in Pennsylvania. Because inside that notebook is a chilling passage that also appears to describe ill feelings toward healthcare and even a CEO. So according to two law enforcement officials who were interviewed by the New York Times, one section of this notebook reads, what do? You whack the CEO at the annual parasitic bean counter convention. It's targeted, precise, and doesn't risk innocence. The notebook provides a chilling insight into
I'm sure we'll get that notebook at some point.
Again, what could be this murder, revealing there was a consideration to use a bomb.
There was really no
carry out the
imagination there,
attack on Thompson,
Karen.
But then
There was none.
the author
It was
later
just what it
decided
was.
against that to seemingly avoid harm.
I think
the
it's
innocent.
meant to be a
Now,
spine.
included with the notebook
Doesn't look like
when he was
it.
arrested is what is being referred to as a manifesto, which was apparently leaked online by independent journalist Ken Klippenstein. And according to TMZ, this text was confirmed by law enforcement sources. And part of this reads, I do apologize for any strife of trauma, but it had to be done. Frankly, these parasites simply had it coming. A reminder, the U.S. has the #1 most expensive healthcare system in the world, yet we rank roughly number 42 in life expectancy. United is the, and the word is indecipherable there, largest company in the U.S. by market cap behind only Apple, Google, Walmart. It has grown and grown, but has our life expectancy? No, the reality is these, and again, indecipherable word, have simply gotten too powerful, and they continue to abuse our country for immense profit because the American public has allowed them to get away with it. Obviously, the problem is more complex, but I do not have space, and frankly, I do not pretend to be the most qualified person to lay out the full argument. But many have illuminated the corruption and greed, Rosenthal more decades ago, and the problems simply remain. It's not an issue of awareness at this point, but clearly power games at play. Evidently, I am the first to face it with such brutal honesty. Now, I want to back up a bit and talk more about the timeline revolving around the back surgery. So, as Mangione was recovering, he was also reportedly isolating from the social scene. We've talked about how concerned friends tried to reach out to him on social media, even how his own family was looking for him. And this leads to another key detail in this story, one that really comes with more unanswered questions. Luigi Mangioni's mother allegedly filed a missing persons report with the San Francisco Police Department before the shooting. The timing on that is odd enough. But even more odd was the fact that she filed the report in November when she and the rest of the family had not heard from him seemingly for a couple of months before that. And we know this because a friend of Mangione, Aaron Cranston, revealed to the New York Times that he had received a message indicating that Mangione's family was looking for him. And this, of course, as I said, leaves a lot of questions. Why was the report filed in San Francisco? Will the timing being just before the shooting reveal anything about what his family potentially knew? And how did he just fall off the radar for months after his surgery without any serious actions being taken to try to find and locate him? Now, Mangione's cousin, Nino Mangione, issued a statement on behalf of the family, and it made it clear that they didn't know anything prior to the news of the arrest, saying, "We cannot comment on news reports regarding Luigi Mangione. We only know what we have read in the media. Our family is shocked and devastated by Luigi's arrest. We offer our prayers to the family of Brian Thompson, and we ask people to pray for all involved." And of course, we know during this time of isolation that his online activity seemed to reveal these odd ideological leanings, particularly this Goodreads review from earlier this year of the manifesto of the Unabomber Ted Kaczynski, in which Mangione seemingly gave the book a 4-star rating. So as investigators work to iron out the motive here, only time will tell if this is truly a descent into ideological extremism that led the accused killer to carry out this assassination. But for now, Luigi Mangione sits behind bars in a Blair County jail awaiting his extradition. We are at the beginning of the legal process. He's, of course, innocent until proven guilty, and we will continue to follow updates for you as they develop. That's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. As always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm
So we are getting more and more bits of information that are coming out every day on this case. And you know, it's fair to say that if he was in a lot of pain and if he was denied, then you know his mental health may well have been. I mean, they do look painful, those images of that back with the screws in. But again, to me, it just doesn't justify the situation that we've come across. So we've kind of seen, you know, from the beginning how this kind of played out, and there was a lack of, almost like a sloppiness about it, like a lack of tidying up after the work was done. You know, we can see that he's printed that pew pew, which makes it more unique, and that the casings and the fingerprints are all a match. And so this doesn't look good where this is going. Now, if he wanted to get caught, he certainly didn't behave in a way that would suggest that. At the court, he's pled not guilty. He is fighting his extradition. Now, when the Koberger case kicked off, Koberger wanted to get extradited back because that was the only way he could see what evidence that they had on him. So I'm not sure how this is working out, like, because obviously the New York would have the evidence over that way on what they've found and from their investigations and like the discovery coming together, whereas PA only has the, you know, the part of where they've kind of arrested him, seized the weapon, which has gone to New York. It's in their crime lab at the moment and stuff. So we have kind of pretty much caught up with everything now. So, like I said, some people think that he deserved it, Brian Thompson, that is, and then there's some of us that, you know, we don't celebrate murder. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter the rights or wrongs of what someone's done. You know, we can't say it's not okay for someone like Gypsy Rose to commit murder and then be making money and not being okay with it, and then celebrating this guy taking another life because it suited his vision. And the fact that he's obviously got some inbuilt hate and disdain for the medical insurance company the CEO. Like I said, the CEO is just the CEO. He doesn't own the company. It's the person. He has targets to meet. It's his job to meet those targets. And yes, he, I guess when you take that kind of job on, the risk. But that's the same in any job. There's always going to be someone who's messing with people up and above. But we don't just go and kill them. Sometimes the consequences of people being in charge of insurance companies, banks, whatever, ends up with someone taking their own life because they can't deal with the debt or whatever happens. And yes, they have their own blood on their hands for the decisions and stuff that they implement, but we shouldn't be killing them. Like, we shouldn't kill, we shouldn't be saying Dee Dee should be dead, because Dee Dee shouldn't be dead. Dee Dee should have been properly investigated, the case explored, and if there was a mental health condition and if there was Munchausen's by proxy, that should have been diagnosed at the time, not when she's dead and she can't answer for herself and all we've got is Gypsy's Book of Lies. And so across the board, it is wrong. And I know we sometimes have a bit of a laugh about the merch and stuff, because there is merch. There is a lot of merch. And whilst I can understand the mission, perhaps, and the reason why, because children have died because of these decisions, I still can't condone it. Like, I can't condone murdering someone. But, at the end of the day, this is one of those weird cases, isn't it? It's a weird one. We're not condoning it, but there's elements of it that I suppose we have to take as light-hearted and go with it, because in a lot of cases murder is really deep and depressing. And sometimes when you can see a little bit of the light, you've got to take a little bit of it. And we'll joke on the merch side of it, and Mrs. AD being a big fan of Luigi, we and the little fights that we have that aren't really real, but we're still having a little, she's right, I'm always right, but we can't condone it. We just cannot condone it. At the end of the day, he wasn't even given a chance to defend himself, was he? He was taken from behind. And then there's that other poor woman who witnessed the whole thing and is probably going to be traumatized for the rest of her life. And she done a runner. And I would have done a runner as well. As soon as I saw that weapon come out, I would have been gone. I'm surprised he didn't shoot her as a witness, because obviously she is a witness and she's a very important witness because she witnessed it happen. But he didn't shoot her. He just went for him. So I just wanted to bring this to you. I just wanted to touch on it. I know it's a bit hit and miss and all, but I sort of approached it on the basis that most of us know what this is all about, because you're probably following me over on the TikTok anyway. And we've talked about it over there, and we've talked about it where we're sort of kind of kept up to date a little bit about it. But now we just wait and see how this plays out. And as I get more updates, we'll hop on some shorter lives and just update on what the situation is. And, if he goes to trial and it's a public one and we can see, then obviously we'll stream that. But it might not be, just because of the situation. I don't know. And I don't know what New York's court policies are either. So but I just wanted to bring that to you guys, have a little look around at what's been going on. Do let me know your thoughts in the comments, what you think about this case, what you think about what's happened here. Do you think Luigi is a good person for what he's done? Do you think he's out of order? Do you support Luigi? Do you not support Luigi? Be interested to know. Make sure you've hit that like button with the thumbs up on here, and make sure you're still subscribed, or subscribe if you're not, so then you don't miss when we are uploading on here. I'll be back on TikTok in a couple of hours. We're going to we've got some Liam Payne updates. I've got questions, so that was something we'll be addressing in a bit on my TikTok. So if you want to catch up with the Liam Payne stuff, I will do a proper video and post it over here. Well, actually what I might do is just post the ones that I've done, put them together, and then post them on here so you guys can watch those over there. But yeah, we've just got some things I want to talk about on that this evening, and just have a little bit of a relaxed evening. Maybe if things work, we might be able to do the drawing game. You never know. See you later, guys. Have a good rest of your day, morning, evening, afternoon, wherever you are in the world. And I look forward to catching you all again soon. Bye for now.